So thank you guys all so much for coming, and to those of you on Zoom as well. We're delighted to have Leslie Butterfield here today to do our jurors critique. She did such a wonderful job on this show, and it's really quite uplifting during this time. And we're gonna go ahead and start with our first place winner, Willem. So let's go walk over there. Leslie, take it away.
Okay. Well, as we go over here to this side, Willem's is on the wall here. Let's talk about before we get into, the individual. First of all, there's a small group, and I really like that. So before I talk about how I went through this process, why don't we just quickly introduce ourselves? There's only like 10 of us. And how many do you have on Zoom?
I've got 4 right now on Zoom.
So that's cool. So everybody knows Christina. She's the curator. And when she says, I helped make a wonderful show. Yeah, I picked, really great pieces. There were a lot more than these that were really great. But Christina hung it. I mean, she's, puts the show together. And boy, it's just beautifully done. So, it's a team artists here. So why don't you start, Jeanette? Just say, what your name and, whether you're an artist and whether you have a piece in the show, a little bit.
Okay, I'm Jeanette Simmons, and I'm fairly new to Sarasota. I love it because it's so culturally diverse and just so much here. I live across the street, so I love to come over to the art center and see what's new. And I started taking art classes when I retired, so that's the only training that I've had.
Well, good for
So
you.
I enjoy it, but I consider myself an art student.
And don't hesitate to enter pieces, so. All right, well.
Well, my name is Willem. Last name Van Osnabrück. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from Holland originally. In my previous life, I was a perfumer. I lived in Holland, obviously, that's where I grew up. My whole life, 40 years, I only worked for one company. Gradually moved up the ladder and went to England. They trained me there to become a perfumer, south of France, all those calendars with the lavender fields, all those farmers would grow those for us and we would harvest them. Anyway, I've moved all over the place. Retired exactly 25 years ago, and I came to Sarasota, and within 2 months I was involved at the art center, and my first class here was a pastel class by, I think his name was Dwight Johnson. It was a semester, 6 weeks long or so, every Tuesday afternoon for 3 hours. So I've been doing pastel ever since.
Ever since,
25
and
years
we're going
now.
to talk about pastel here in a minute, so go ahead.
I'm James Gabbard. I'm a sculptor, primarily in bronze, a piece of work here. And I was a sculptor young in life, then I got tied into the family business. After I retired, I jumped right back in it, and I haven't left it.
Yeah, for many years now, right?
Yeah.
Pieces all over, I've seen James work all over the country. So certainly
No,
forward.
and I wish, but in a few states.
Good.
Hey, I'm Adrienne Watts. I'm an artist here in Sarasota. Do not have a piece. I'm not done one of the exhibits here in a while. From North Carolina about 2 years ago. And again, enjoy being
The
in
reason she
Sarasota.
has is she has a show at our Elation Hotel, which fills the whole lobby, and that took. So please get over there and see that. It's incredible.
Before next Tuesday.
And then she's got a show coming up, I saw.
Yep, and right behind you actually at the Sarasota Orchestra's little front lobby. But yeah, the exhibit at Art Ovation has been up for 6 months, but it is ending on Tuesday. I pick my work up. Anyhow. But I always enjoy hearing different jurors with different backgrounds. I love hearing their perspective on how they choose paintings and how they award. So I don't have one here, but I really love hearing that.
Cool, thanks for coming.
I'm Pat Pettit. I'm a retired custom furniture builder, and I let's see, I am an artist. I work in wood and paper and cardboard. I do a piece in the show. I've been showing here at the Art Center for about 10 years.
I'm Ashley Lippincott. I do pop art, photography, graphic design, and mixed media.
And she has
From
two
Sarasota.
pieces.
Oh, and I
in
have
the
two
show.
pieces in the show
One award
in one
winner.
place.
So good
Or
for you.
honorable mention.
We'll talk about her piece.
I'm Zerby Sadovic. I'm a printmaker and encaustic artist. And I used to do a lot of exhibiting down here when I first came to Anna Maria. And then I moved into Sarasota, and I get pulled in a lot of ways. But it's a wonderful place to come here and meet people. And this city is just a great place for the arts and the community around it. So I am a friend of Leslie's, and I was real interested in seeing how people would interpret this theme. It's great.
I'm Sue Kerr. I'm a sculptor. I only work in raccoon. First time I tried it, that was it for me. And I do have a piece in the show.
And an award-winning piece, so congratulations on that.
If anyone on Zoom would like to introduce themselves, please feel free. Kathy, maybe?
Yeah.
You just have to mute yourself first. Unmute, yeah. Down at the bottom there. You got it.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kathy Carrier, and I'm a paper mache artist, and I have a piece in the show, and I do pretty whimsical paper mache animals and people and all kinds of things, and I turn trash into art. And so all of my stuff is made out of things that people discard, and except for the paint and the finishes and that sort of thing. But I feel that paper mache is one of those wonderful, wonderful art mediums that is so versatile and fun. And people think when they take my class, I teach classes. I've taught them at Art Center Sarasota, and I teach currently at Art Center Manatee. And it's so funny because people, when they take my class, go, "Oh God, I remember making paper mache when I was a child, and I made something with a balloon." And it's just really fun to see them get back into it and discover how creative they can be with it. And that just gives me so much joy. I love sharing that. So anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it brings me joy, and hopefully it brings other people joy too.
Thank you.
I am JC Wayne. I'm a friend of Leslie's and Zerby's, and a relatively recent Art Center Sarasota member. I am an artist and a poet. I moved down to the Sarasota region in February from Vermont, and I'm currently in Chicago for a bit, where I have a studio. And I was the exhibiting artist in September for Arts Advocates with poetry and art, and have another solo coming up at the end of the year if All Angels Gallery is still standing by then.
Thanks, JC.
Okay, I think we're good on the Zoom for
Those
now.
those who want to have said. Okay, so let me introduce myself a little bit and tell you about the process that I went through here. So you all know I'm Leslie, and I had the opportunity, it was such a cool opportunity to get to do this jury. I was honored. I don't know if it was Christina or Kenzie when Kenzie was here, but I feel wonderfully lucky to get selected to do it. And it is a lot of work, because it's not that I'm complaining. I'm just saying there were 282 really excellent pieces that were submitted. And so Christina did the incredibly large job of putting them all in a PowerPoint after you all had submitted them, through that website, but she couldn't give me access to that because I'd see your names, and since I'm prejudiced, I would have chosen all my friends. Actually, I would have chosen the art I care about, but that struck me. But that's how it works. So she sent me this huge file, and I looked at everything about this big, and it was very difficult to choose because there were really many excellent pieces, and I went through that process of with a spreadsheet of, you know, selecting ones that I thought really belong in the show, really fit the theme. And then I did it multiple times, sort of blinded again, didn't look at that, and they didn't all come out the same. And at some point I just had to nail it, right? And then she told me, oh, when I sent her, here are my selections, she said you could do 85. And so I sent her my 85, and she said, oh, I'm so sorry, but there's too many for the space, because, you know, it all has to do with the wall space. So I think Christina's committed to not having stacked art unless it's the member show and everybody gets a turn, right? So I had to take about 8 or 10 out more. So I think, what did we end up with?
There's 89 in the show.
Oh, 89, okay.
But that includes
Oh,
the
the sculptures were different. The 85 was wall pieces, and then the sculptures, I think you said I could have about 10. So part of it is you don't want to be running into it, you know, during the opening.
And we
so,
have classes and they.
Yeah, we have a lot of students
Kids.
coming. So the way I started this, I will share. I sat with Zerby and a friend, another friend who's actually a poet, having coffee at Cafe Arts down the way, and we talked about, Zerby's a retired professor of art, and she's run galleries at Rochester Institute of Technology. So she's really experienced doing this, and I just felt it was helpful to have some guidance. And she was like, the theme is really critical. And that is what I felt once I started doing the work. It was absolutely clear to me. I thought maybe before I'd be pretty interested in technique and, you know, uniqueness and all the things that you think of when you go to see a piece of art, right? But for me, to this time, the theme really stood out. And so my first cut was, do I think it even really exhibits the theme of Euphoria? And there were pieces, especially more abstract pieces, that, you know, they weren't particularly emotional. They might have been well rendered, but, you know, like a pouring that was just interesting, but not euphoric. So I could sort of go through and say, these aren't emotionally very euphoric. But then I was like, well, what is euphoria to me? And because now I've got to narrow it down some more, right? And I had thought about it quite a bit before I saw the art, right? That I think it's a wide-ranging emotion. It can be like crazy, out of your mind euphoric. It can be super happy, like the best day, the moment when you just really feel happy or a great joy. But it can also be, I think, for thrilling, it can be different for different people. And so as we go through and see the pieces that I selected, I think I'll talk a little bit about how that piece spoke to me as a human being. And, you know, I'm an artist. My background is I went to art school for 3 years in Denmark. And from there, I then went to the University of Minnesota, and I got an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, and a PhD in design and aesthetics. So, you know, for my education, I was really looking at art continuously, right? And then I practiced as an artist all along, but I also had a day job to pay the bills. I wasn't one of those great artists that could make a living at it. So, but when I retired 10 years ago, then I started working more seriously with it and got involved in the community. I was on the public art committee here, which was sort of my biggest opportunity to function in this kind of juror role, because, you know, we would see 100, 200 submissions and then have to narrow it down and select 10 and then down select from 10 to 2 or 3, invite them in, you know, so it was a really interesting jurying process, a little more complex than here. So anyway, as I went through and started thinking about how would I like to give the awards. So once the show was up and these 88, 9 pieces and the 10 sculptures were in place and beautifully displayed like this, then I came for an afternoon and I walked the show, and I have to say, I was so surprised at how similar to the photos pieces were, and yet how much stronger. There's almost not a piece where I went, oh, that isn't as great as I thought. It really has been the opposite. It's like they're better than their photos. Now, I will say there were a number, and I don't suppose it was you all, but it might have been, of people who didn't do a good job of photographing. there's some where I said, no, I can't look at this anymore because it's so crooked. I don't know if the horizon is crooked and it will really be bothersome looking at it, or, you know what I'm saying? So I know there are some classes you can take to photograph your work, and it's worth it because, you know, that's your chance if you want to get in the show, right? So that aside, once I came in, then, you know, I walked the show again and again and until I really had narrowed it down to, but I will say, we'll go to the first place piece. The minute I saw that picture, that pastel that Willem created, I was in love. And I know it's very personal because I actually love abstract art most of all. I'm very drawn to abstraction, but the expression you captured here, for me, I'm a mom, I have boys, they love sports, and it just captures that incredible feeling as a child, and not all children have it, but when they're just absolutely set on something. So how you got that, now you told me when we met at the opening that you worked from a photograph. So tell us a little
Well,
about
when
that.
I took the photograph, I took it without the helmet, and I said, just look at me like you want to kill me. I am your opponent in baseball, and so that was his best grimace.
I'm gonna get you.
And then later, he has a helmet, but I did not use, well, everything of his helmet because it covered up too much of his face. So I made those, you know, the white, what you call the bars.
Like the cage.
Yeah, I just, you know, found a space which wouldn't cover up his nose, his mouth, or his eyes. And then I had an idea that to keep distance, to put the glove, it's not as big as that, but to really put it in your face, to create distance. And then this dream was always, or still is, to play as a professional in a big baseball stadium. Well, I've never, you know, I grew up with soccer, still love soccer. I've never been to a big baseball stadium. So I just, like maybe, hopefully you do, but I browsed the internet and I found a photo of, I don't know,
The Yankees
the
stadium
Mets or
or-
somebody, yes.
Yeah.
So I took that, and it was only one part. And so I kind of copied that. And then I did the same thing. It's a replication from the letter.
Yeah.
A little bit different, but so that is how I created the depth to do, you know, mirror image and how I did things. And I'm such.
You won a prize,
When
right?
I did my pastel classes, I have to tell you, the guy said, there's no hope for you. It is not calligraphy, Willem.
Ah.
Because I said that, and I still do it. Sometimes I use toothpicks to get just that little line which I need. And,
No way
so
you
I'm still
can
doing
draw.
calligraphy. And just to show you another piece of my style, maybe you saw
For the upcoming show.
this one.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you see
I saw
that
that,
one.
yeah.
So there you can see the nitpicker I am.
I mean, this is
Photorealism.
realism, but this one is emotional to me as well, highly emotional. It's just loaded with strong feeling. This boy, your grandson, has got this sense of euphoria. He dreams, you know, it's his dream, and it's captured to me. So I kept coming back, and I just loved it. So
May I say one more thing? Just to tell people never to give up, because earlier this year, he lives in Destin, and earlier this year, when I showed him the painting, we entered it in a show in Destin, and it was not even accepted.
oh, how do you like that? Well, I'm glad you won, and now you have a small purse that you can take into a baseball game, so you can see what it is. I'm calling him up. All right, so shall we go to Gary? Gary LaParle's not here, right?
He is not, his work is
It's over here, the white.
over
one.
there.
So let's go wander over there.
All right.
We can jump around, but I don't think any of us will be harmed by walking around a little bit.
I'm curious about your signature, Willem. What is your signature all about?
My name is Van Osnabrugge.
Right?
That's the one.
So
I just
Van
put
Os.
Van Os.
Got it.
can do the three top winners and then maybe just kind of do a circle.
Sure.
That would be fine with me. All right, so this Gary LaParle is not here. I did look a bit at his website, which I found interesting. And you all should do the same if you're interested, but this one stood out to me as well. I mean, a lot of the submissions were in that sort of position where people were like, wow, you know, but this idea of floating in space with his expression of, I don't know, euphoria, I guess is what it should be, right? I just found that the composition is super strong. And because it doesn't have a whole lot going on otherwise, you're drawn very quickly to the figure, to his position. And I feel like the fact that it's kind of unfinished as well is very strong. Anybody have any comments?
I would say, so I used to have a studio at Creative Liberties and Gary did at the same time. And I remember him working on this, and you mentioned unfinished. It was kind of quite different. He does a lot of collage as a basis and like kind of portraits of couples and single, individuals. And this one, we were talking, as we often did, is it finished? Is it not, and maybe I should do more. But it was so different and yet so compelling.
Oh, that's
And,
nice to
we all,
hear.
we all decided that he should just leave it as is, or that's what we would do. But I think it was brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, and it was completed this year, it says, 2024. So it was a great fit for the show, whether he knew that it would be submitted for this show or not ahead of time.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's great. So if you know him, send him our best. I'm very excited that he had this piece in the show. There's another piece around the corner that's a little bit similar. It did get a merit award, so we'll come back to that.
Okay.
So let's go. Kathy's on the line.
Kathy is on the line.
And Kathy, get ready because we want to hear your story. Once we've walked, we got to go kitty corner across the gap.
All right.
Okay, so prepare yourself. We're going to the dog.
All right. Going to the dogs.
I will say, when I saw this first Kathy, I just started laughing. So that's also, great joy is it's so funny, it's so cute. And so congratulations on third place here.
Thank you.
Tell us, what's the story here?
Well, this is actually based on a memory of my husband's. And I remember when we first started dating, which was 100 years ago, we'd been married for 51 years, just to give you some perspective. So this is a story he told often. And he grew up in a small town in Iowa called Vinton. And, real small farm community back in the 50s, 40s and 50s. And every year they would have a 4th of July parade. And of course, I was known for corn, right? Corn and pigs. And so my husband's family had friends who had a dachshund, had a wiener dog. And so they had a parade, and the corn, the corn would come out, and 4th of July parade and all that down Main Street, very Americana. And so they had this weenie dog, and they had the town baker bake the dog a hot dog bun. And so they tied the bun on the dog and put the dog in the parade. And so the dog was walking down Main Street with a hot dog bun on. But the problem was he was followed by a flock of birds. And the birds were coming down and they were pecking at the bun. And so here's this, can you just imagine? So here's this wiener dog walking in the parade with this bun that he really doesn't want to have on. And the birds are going crazy, trying to eat the bun. So I kept having this image in my head and thinking, you know what, this would make a great paper mache piece. It tells a story. And I love it when my pieces come together because they come together very organically. I never really have a preconceived notion in my head ahead of time, how they're going to look, you know, what they're going to look like, what they're going to do, how they're going to act, you know, interact with each other, etc., with all the elements. And so I just had this vision in my head, and I thought, well, I need to put a bird on that bun, but you know what? I need to put a fishing pole with a hot dog in that bird's mouth. And so that's how it evolved. And just, you know, it's based on a true story.
Very, very sweet, you know, and I thought, you know, of course I'm thinking I want to, you know, include pieces that have a variety of euphoric emotions, which this certainly is very different, you know, than the other two that we've looked at so far. But at the same time, I don't know, it's wonderful to also see a different media. It's not, you know, oil, it's not pastel, it's paper mache. Why not, right? We're artists.
Yep.
Use the media that speaks to us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So.
And I love how he looks up at you, like such an adoring.
Well, what's interesting, put him on the floor once. Pick him up and put him on the floor and then look at it.
Because of course he was on the ground walking this low dog, right? Short-legged dog. You didn't dare put him on the floor for the show, I guess. You were asked.
Oh, but you know, I mean, he looks at you like a real dog.
He's great. Well, he probably will want to sell, but I bet your husband wants it more than anybody else.
Well, believe me, he's got plenty of companions.
Good. Companions at your house. Great.
Yeah, well, if you notice back of me, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I have a giant 5-foot praying mantis in back of me. So we, I have a lot of critters.
Working with, I'll let you know. Thank you for working with found materials and keeping, to some degree, there's a lot of available found materials right now in the city.
Well, one thing that you may find interesting is, okay, if you notice the ears.
Yeah.
Okay, I use a lot of those. We buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, as everybody does. And a lot of stuff comes in those plastic bubble wrap envelopes. And, you know, most people pitch them, but they work great for paper mache. And that's what the ears are made out of.
There you go. Well, let's go look at a piece of bronze. James is going to talk about.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, thank you.
It's to paper mache. It's very light. Just saying, James. I hope you've all tried to see the augmented reality on this piece here. If you haven't yet, I don't know how you get it to work.
I can bring my phone out and show you guys.
Because it's quite cool. All right, so let's look at this piece of sculpture. It's a merit award by James Gabbert. But tell us about it, James.
Well, what I often do with the work is just try to capture a single emotion. And it's titled Rising Up, but it could well be Euphoria. It's you know, joyful beyond joyful. And you know, the eyes are pointing up as you're moving out, and there's a movement and an expression that
She's like
it's hard
totally
if you
free,
can't put,
right?
hmm?
I think of her as totally free.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hair and the composition is quite beautiful with the shape of the hair, the shape of the arms, and the dress that's flowing. It's a quite stunning piece.
Thank you. I think what's interesting about it is the technique. This is made out of wax, first of all, sheets of wax that are literally this thick. And the process of laying it down and letting it cool, and then shaping it. Some of this is a natural puddling of it on the edges as it cools. Other areas it needed to be cut. And this is all one piece. The legs and arms are added, obviously. You can see, just the cut here. The thickness of it shows the, excuse me, shows the thickness of the piece. The arms and legs are hollow in the back. And what's really fun, I think, is the nose. Because all I did, this flat piece, I cut it here and then folded it into itself like you're making a cone with a piece of paper. And that naturally created the nose.
Yeah.
And so it's all very, organic.
very
It kind of
organic, yeah.
helped,
Whoa.
the wax kind of informed me what, it wanted to do, like this, curve over the buttocks. And so, when I heard the theme, I said, well, I know what I'm going to submit.
And how is the bronze attached to the marble? Is there a rod in there? Or?
Screws.
Okay.
Yeah. Welded screws and then.
Very cool. So James has got work at the gallery on Main Street that
Yes.
used to be Uptown, now it's something.
Main Street.
Main Street Gallery, so if you want to see more of his work. And pieces online that are in different.
You freaked me out a little bit when you touched it. You're just like, wow, I would like that.
So, I mean, bronze is indestructible.
Oh, we're not gonna knock it down.
Yeah, let's still test.
Well, so let's go behind,
Sure.
Adrian is Ashley's piece, so I figure we'll kind of work our way around. And if there's a piece anyone wants to talk about that you have it in the show, or you don't, but you like it, or you don't, you please call it out, okay? So Ashley, I love you as well. My father was a sailor his whole life, and I sailed as a child with him, and that you captured to me that feeling of the sail, the water, the wind, just the being in the water. And I know this is not the kind of day sailor that I sailed around in, but I was in races, as a kid, and this feels like you're racing with the wind. And I just thought this really speaks to me for a form of euphoria. So tell us about it.
But as a sailor, I agree.
Oh, good, I'm glad. You can fight.
Well, as far as the content goes, my art is escapism from the very beginning. I escape into it. I hope that when people look at it, you escape into it. And one of the main things that I don't know how to phrase it. I think about what I hear, and more importantly, what I don't hear. So a lot of my work I do is underwater because I love the way that the world is muted. But you can hear the barnacles and you can hear like a boat going by a mile away, but you can't really hear the sounds. And when you get in the wind, if you face them in the wind, you can't hear a lot. You're in the moment. So I love that you felt that. It sounded like you were starting to say how you felt like you were in that moment. So for me, that moment is that blocking out of the sound. As far as the art goes, I am in love with pop art and I am in love with resin. So I've been a commercial photographer, a graphic designer, and so now I'm doing my own thing. And so it all starts with a photo. I build the photo up to be the perfect photo, and then I tear it down, and I just keep the elements that I want from it. And then I build it back up again with color and with texture. The resin pour, probably you're like, oh, resin pour, but it took me forever to figure out resin. And I'm starting to figure it out in terms of like the color, the texture. Do I want ripples in it? Do I not? Bubbles. I thought I was going to lose my bubbles. And then I'm starting to branch into sculpture with resin. So I build my own silicone molds, and do I want it concave? Do I want it convex? The one over there is convex. This one's concave. So I'm still exploring with it. But and I'm a sailor as well.
Anybody have questions?
Did you do that other resin piece
The one with the elephant.
Oh my goodness, that one's so fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So fun. I liked it so much too. I considered it versus this one back and forth, but you know, I personally felt it was before I could tell it's the same artist. That I don't really want to give 2 awards to, you know, why not spread it out? Right?
Yeah.
You get to be here, you get to win an award, so good. for you.
Yes.
Any questions for Ashley?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I love watching everybody go up to your art because, you know, when it's not your art, we all stand back so far. And I didn't want to touch my own art, but we're all touching your art and putting it on the floor. And I think that's super cool. So,
Well, so let's move on. There's this piece here. Is a woman, Ava Bihar. She's not on the. Do you have Ava on Zoom?
Ava is not over Zoom. She didn't make it to the opening either,
I
so.
don't think I've met her. This one was in my mind similar to the piece that the Gary LaParle, right? Because it's the male figure, that, you know, expression of something crazy, but so different of a painting. Where the other one is, you know, all that white background and texture. And this piece is smooth and shiny, but he's got a octopus going on here, and you know the what is this called? Aurora Borealis, the galaxy, right? So it's got a very different feel, even though it's a male figure, kind of with his knees up, right? And it just spoke to me very strongly. The color, the composition is very strong, and it's just very unusual and very emotional to me, sort of spiritual. Anybody want to comment on that?
I like the fading of the feet and the arm.
Oh, it's sort of,
Yes.
that makes it part of maybe what makes it ethereal, spiritual. Zerby, any comments on your?
Oh, that's right where I go, or to those.
The sort of fading
Yes.
into the background. yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's an
It's a really nice figurative study and objects.
I agree. I agree. And in its own way, not finished. I mean, it is finished, but because, you know, you don't have all the detail, you sort of, it leaves room for you to continue to think about it. That for me is my measure of a piece that I really am attracted to is how long does it engage me? And does it engage me in a variety of ways? And this one did, so.
And Leslie, importantly, also, you're brought into the whole experience a lot more. It's not just looking at something for information, but you become a participant as well.
Very
That's
good
really
point,
important.
yeah. I think that's true. It's interesting while we're right here, this piece, you know, as simple as it is, I felt like it really deserved to be in the show because we've got another piece with a lot of white space, but it's so simple. And yet, you know, to be able to express a strong emotion like Euphoria with just a couple of lines, all the variety of color that's in the lines. And so I'm like, you know, very special, very unique. And then there's this one. My husband loves this one the most of all of them, you know. You hear the music, you know it's like very child oriented, all this crazy stuff going on, what's going on. At first I thought it was graphic design because there's so much detail, but that was one where I was surprised to come up and see it up close and see that it's all hand rendered and in acrylic, I think that's right.
Mike does a lot of robots, so yeah, this is definitely up his alley.
Well, I can't talk about everything, but we can always do a round, or, you know, anyone who wants to stay afterwards. I want to be done in say 20 minutes or so. Just grab some closes.
Oh no, we're staying open for this for sure.
Okay, so let's see, where's the next? So I was pretty certain that I needed to have an abstract piece that really spoke to me emotionally, because I just am very drawn to the abstraction. And this one, I did meet, is she on the line?
She's not.
Okay, I remember her name.
It's Ellen.
Ellen Kerwin. I did meet her at the opening, and she told me this was based on a photo. She was sailing in the Aegean, thank you very much, I guess off in Greece or Italy, and she took a picture. The water was so stunning. And that was sort of the inspiration for this painting. But I love the fact that there's large areas of one hue, although it's super complex when you look at it, variety of shades of blues, tending to reds, tending to greens, and then this whoosh of bright yellow, orange that is on fire. The way I see it is the blue turns to fire, water to fire. And so it's unlike so many of the very nice abstract paintings that were submitted, this one just felt emotionally super high to me. And so did the one that's right behind Pat there. It's got all the squiggles in it, right? So color is definitely playing a big role in it being emotionally strong, but it's the movement in those crazy lines as well. That, for me, that one needed to stay in the show for sure. And then if you haven't looked at it, this one over here that's St. Armand's, and it's a collage, but it has all these crazy things going on in it. And I think we've all been to St. Armand's, whether it's your cup of tea or not. It's kind of crazy over there sometimes, when there's a festival going on and lots of tourists and locals, and whoever did that,
It's Mayor Curson.
Her name is Mara?
His name is Mayor.
Mayor, it's a guy.
Mayor Curson.
Well, he's got a very creative mind.
Yeah.
So I thought that one was fun in a way, I'm not a St. Armand's person, but I can just see there's a lot of people who would just get a big kick out of that, especially when you look at the detail, right?
While we're at this corner, I did want to mention our youngest artist
Oh, yes.
in the show.
Right behind
She came to our summer camp, and it's actually this piece right here on the corner. And Isla is 6 years old.
She was here at opening, and she was very shy in her little pink tutu. Beautiful little girl. Her mother's delightful, and they were delighted, of course. But I don't think when you're 6, you get it, that you've been accepted into a jury show. Right? She was just like stars. Isn't that a fine little piece? It has a lot of interesting texture in it, in here, and of course the bits of gold leaf, and not bright like these other abstract pieces, but it really spoke to me. It was like sparkly. And then when you meet her in her little pink outfit, you're like, oh, that's the sparkly.
So cute.
That's right. And on the other end, you have these black crows. These are paper mache too.
No, those are resin.
Oh, they're resin. Okay, so she's like.
They're quite fragile, actually.
But I met her as well, and she was so thrilled to be in the show. I seriously considered this for an award. I felt like this or the dog because they're working in a similar medium, but boy, are they different emotions, right? At the same time, these birds are just having a blast, right? We've been around when we've seen birds just go crazy, right? Singing to each other. I think this is a charming piece. Okay, should we wind her on?
We've got Susan's piece.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
We talked about this one, right?
We did, yeah.
Okay, so raku, it's only raku. But I have to say, I've done raku, and it's challenging. And you don't know what you're gonna get every time. So tell us, Susan, not only about your process, but the imagery.
Well, generally I like to do piled up totem type pieces anyway on each other. But this is, as I'm getting older, I'm thinking about joy and age and how to project it, the resignation and joy. And with the raku, I've been working on trying to get, I love the shiny, I still like the matte finish. So I've been working on the way to apply the glaze so it's much less shiny. And so this was the most successful one that I've had so far with that.
It was a beautiful bust, and I think very emotional. I mean, we've got pieces in here of children who are in a joyful state. We have Willem's grandson, who's a young child, and this one, an older person at different stages of life. I think Euphoria is a different thing, right? She's not dreaming to be a baseball player. I don't think so. Because she's got this companion of a bird. So why does she have a bird here with her?
Oh, I think of everybody has their totem or something, and I thought the best for her would be an owl.
Yeah, the wisdom, you know, I
was
thought of
thinking
that
wisdom.
connection.
I was thinking of wisdom.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's a little painting on the other wall, and we'll come down to that I was back and forth because they both capture a very similar feeling. She's an older woman. She has a bird on her shoulder, and it's a beautiful little, I think, oil painting. But I just love the medium and the way you know, rendered the three-dimensionality, and you've caught this kind of the way her face is wrinkled. And raccoon is such an amazing fit for an old, you know, an old face. So congratulations, really well done. Anybody else have comments?
I was surprised this was yours because usually you have your sort of like
Funny.
very funny, humorous animals. So it's really nice departure.
Thank you. Yes, excellent. And I would like this piece. I liked it right from the start. It's very simple, and you've certainly given it, you know, top billing there in that space when you walk into the room. I like it a lot, but it just, you know, you can't. Unfortunately, I only got like 9 awards to give, so that's what you do. You gotta narrow it down. This piece over here is, we were sort of competing in my mind, competing and I was talking about it. I was over here to give a merit award. This piece to me is that form of euphoria that's out of control, right? It's this, you know, over the top. I mean, what's going on in this? It does draw me in multiple times. I think the composition is interesting. The use of color is interesting. The strokes, the brush strokes, and these white spaces, all of that, it makes it a strong painting. But I sure don't like it. Like, I find it repulsive. I don't know why, because I'm not like, you know, stodgy about my view on sexuality or something, but makes me very uncomfortable. But that's okay too. So I felt like that was good. It kept engaging me in an uncomfortable way. But then the other piece, which I did end up giving an award to, we'll just go around the corner and look at that. It is an unusual piece too, and I think like kind of crazy. So in a way, they fit in that category I was looking for, of euphoria over the top. Like, are they on drugs? Or, you know, what's happening there? And the title on this one's so cute. Well, it's Bliss, or Chat et Café sous le croissant de lune. And then that would be like this is the moon, right? The croissant. I'm not very strong on French, but it's having these cats floating around. And she's what, having some kind of, I'm thinking euphoric tea. And what's with the face? I don't know. Derby probably loves this. She's a cat person. But then having the canvas extend in this three-dimensional way, I think really set it off as well. So for me, this one, I really wanted to have that, at least one piece that wasn't about, you know, uber joy, but some kind of crazy, cool, weird thing happening, right? So
yeah, Perry is she's a painting professor actually at
she's
SCF.
at Ringling. Oh, at SCF.
Yeah.
I thought I read she was at Ringling on her bio somewhere, but it might be out of date. But she went to Ringling. And she went to Savannah College of Art and Design. So she's super well trained, and she certainly knows how to, you know, render and create it. Look at this metallic pink up in there, and these beautiful renditions in here. So she's a very well-trained painter and doing a great job. Derby, what do you think?
Oh, I agree. And I think it's a fine composition, and it's just unquestionably well done.
Yeah, and then unusual.
Yeah.
Not like anything else here, right?
And those cat eyes in the background.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So,
Halloweeny.
yeah, and look at this beautiful piece, Janice Newman. She's a wonderful painter. She's won first place here before. I love that piece. I think it really captures the movement. The colors are beautiful. She's a great human being too, as well. It deserves plenty of awards, but you know, limited awards. And here's the woman that was sort of competing with Sue in my mind, with Sue's sculpture. Because it captures that time in life and kind of, you know, a more calm form of euphoria that we feel. I think the children are more likely to feel it really strongly because they're just learning how to manage those emotions, right? So have we made it all the way around? And have I missed I know that Pat has a piece in the show. She's here with us. Should we go look at Pat's?
Yeah.
So before we get down to Pat, let me just stop and talk about this piece. It was definitely in contention for me. It's called The Transfiguration, and I'm not very strong on biblical history, but this is Christine Hales, and she only paints, she's she's an Episcopal priest, minister herself, and she studies biblical history and has a PhD, and she paints icons. So I got to go see a show that she had at the chapel, the one that JC mentioned. It's on Longboat Keys.
All Angels.
All Angels. And it was a beautiful show. Zerba, you were there with us. And it was so interesting to hear her talk about the process and how she studied with these icons, or the iconographers, I believe, in countries like Russia and, you know, overseas. And it's incredible, meticulous work. But interestingly, it is always like a copy. You don't paint your own idea of what, you know, the transfiguration might be. And this is the beginning of the Passion, if I'm correct, at this time, right? And so it's sort of the holy high of the life of Christ. This is when he really understands that it's the end, and it's now that he's going to give his life for the resurrection of others. And so it's a very emotional piece, but it didn't speak to me the way some of the other pieces did. So, you know, that was part of being a juror, is kind of coming to terms with, I love horses, like my favorite animal, maybe dolphins, horses, right? And so, you know, they were very tempting to me, but not necessarily because they were the best painting, but because that's my idea. Like if I see a horse, I go, my day is okay. I saw a horse, right? If I see a dolphin, it's even better maybe, right? So, but anyway, I just am sharing that because as a juror, I think it's an incredible piece. And I thought about how many human beings in the world would this be like the pinnacle of their faith? And so would that be Euphoria? Well, I think it would be, right? It just, since I was the juror, it wasn't mine. And so I went, okay, I'm gonna tell Christina, I think it's amazing. But, you know, I'm gonna give an award to the boy that I can relate to, right? So, Chris, we're gonna talk about this little three-dimensional piece that Pat made. Beautiful poem. I really think it's sweet. I know, I saw it. You're one of the very few people that I went to, you know, and I know who that is. Unless someone signed, I didn't, not many, and I was wrong many times. But Pat was working on it when I visited her at some point. So I knew this was Pat. And who else works this cleverly in paper and boxes and, you know, so tell us the story. What's going on?
Well, I encountered this poem many, many years ago, and it never left me.
Why don't you read the poem for us, because Zoom probably can't see it.
To make a prairie, it takes a clover and one bee, one clover and a bee, and reverie. The reverie alone will do if bees are few. So, because it just, in so few words, she captures this feeling. And so the poem's been rattling around in my head for many, many, many years. And I've always been more of a word person than a visual person. And I only started making art about 10 years ago. So this was an attempt to make visual what she said in those words.
Yeah, it's interesting as artists, you know, and I think we had this as well with the dog, right? Her husband had been telling this story so long. It's like you sometimes have to get it out of you. It's just going on. I think Ashley is the same thing with that feeling of the sail and the wind and no sound but the wind. It's such a cool part of being an artist is that you have this, you know, this feeling, and then you have a skill set in which you can bring it to life. So I think you've really done it beautifully there. It's a really nice piece.
And I like working in tiny little details and obsessing over little details.
So is there anybody who's got a piece in the show that would like to have us talk about it? You want to talk about it yourself? Nobody else?
My piece.
Oh, come on, show us. Tell us your name, I'm sorry.
My name is Mary Dice.
Hi, Mary, thank you for coming.
This year has been like an exploration in fiber art. And so I did it on needle felting.
So tell us, I remember now meeting you at the opening, and she was telling the young lady who did the piece, the 6-year-old, about, we grabbed her to show her some other art, and you were explaining your technique to this. First of all, it does capture very much that feeling of euphoria. The colors are wonderful, and the contrast of her being black on that really rainbowy, abstract background. It's a really nice composition. And if it weren't that that was kind of the common theme, is this thing, you know, which there's nothing wrong with it. It was just when I was trying to pick very unique pieces, that would be, but I am a very strong believer in fiber art, and I like to see it in our shows, to see different media, and fiber is such a wonderful one. So how do you do this?
So I knit my own canvases, and they're bigger than this and thinner when I knit them. And then when I felt them, they get denser and smaller. And then they're, you know, all the fibers are bound together. And then I just do needle felting on top of it. And I chose this. I have 2 girls that were dancers, a granddaughter that's a dancer, and that's why
They're gonna be
to me,
all
that's
over
like
this.
Euphoria. Yeah, actually, it's the first piece that my youngest daughter has said, of all the art that I've done, I want that.
Aw. But you didn't put it at a price, like someone down there is like 1,800 million something.
She said that after I had submitted it, and I said, oh, well, otherwise I'll have to make you another one.
That's right. Oh my goodness. Well, it's a wonderful show. I feel like
It is.
very uplifting. I'm so grateful that I got to have this theme and not, you know, one like hurricanes. For me, the most euphoric moment was coming home to my house. How many days ago was it now? 10 or something like that, and seeing it was still there on North Siesta Key. That was like unbelievable to drive into that driveway, you know, with all the debris and stuff, and go, there's a house, you know. So euphoria can come at different times in our lives in different ways. Watching our granddaughter dance.
Leslie, I thought for the show and the reception, I just thought it was so great that you made everybody feel very importantly part of it. And you took so much time with individuals walking around, looking at things, and telling the story about how long it took you to select that work and going through the reviews. I think if every critic or everyone juror spent that kind of time, I think it would be really important to feel it's, and that's what makes a great show.
Well, and I really wanted everyone to get to, you know, interact in this session, right? That's the point. Why would you come just to hear me give a lecture? I mean, I'm not that person, right? But I like to hear why you made the piece you made, and what is there. So as we end, are there some pieces we didn't talk about? Like, do you have a favorite or one that just really strikes you, or maybe one you wonder why? I'd be happy to, you know, to share.
Well, I came today because I was so struck by the piece you chose, the first place, the baseball player.
Yeah.
And I thought it was such an unusual choice. I wouldn't have,
That's great.
an unpredictable choice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know why you chose it. That's
Yeah,
the main reason I'm here today.
Oh, and so did you feel like you got a little?
Oh,
bit more
yes, very
sense
much
of it?
so. And I liked it when I first looked at it, but listening to you talk about it today just made me think about a whole lot of
Yeah.
things about the picture that I haven't taken in
And
before.
it's
So,
sort of that beauty's in the eye of the beholder,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we can all agree that that piece is beautifully rendered. It's
Mhm.
incredibly well rendered, right? And it's a really nice composition.
yes.
But whether it speaks to you as like the transfiguration, could truly speak to a lot of people, right? It just spoke to me because of
Mhm.
my life, because, you know, of watching my children have these dreams, and myself and my friends, right? To dream something bigger, so much bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
And even though it's sort of a common dream, a lot of boys want to go to the big leagues. I know that, but it's still, it's a true dream, right? And it's passion. So maybe that's the word for that form of euphoria is passion.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie. You did a great job.
It was such an honor. I really appreciate that. All right, well, everybody keep supporting the arts center. It's our place, right? It's our place to be together and come take classes. You have a party coming up.
We don't.
Oh, you're not doing it?
But we do have, our next show is still open. The deadline is November 3rd.
November 3rd.
Trompe-l'oeil.
Right.
Trick of the eye.
You have to actually go on.
And thank you all on Zoom for coming to hang out with us.
Thank you so
Bye. Thank you for coming.
I always think that, but
Exactly.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, Christina. Thanks.